Um, well, hey everybody, welcome back to our second installment of Polar Opposites. Happy Friday. I'm excited to have our two panelists back, CP and Annie Aggens right here. So say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
What do you guys got going on this Friday?
I'm about to start happy hour.
Friday, May Day, May 1st.
May 1st, that's right, yeah. Some yard work maybe a little bit later.
We're going to do a maypole. A maypole. No, we're
Excellent.
not.
Well, I hope that you guys are up for a spirited debate today because we've got some good topics.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know what Polar Opposites is, basically we're just going to toss up two sides of the coin and let CP and Annie argue whichever side they end up with. So they for the first two, they know what the topics are going to be, but not which side they're going to have to argue. So our warm-up topic today is the difference between fresh food or dehydrated meals while on the trail. And CP, you're looking pretty dapper today. We're going to let you take this one away first. And I'm just going to reach into the little water bottle koozie of chance.
All right, excellent.
And you, sir, will be debating the benefits of dehydrated meals.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for the dapper comment. I'm actually wearing a merino wool sweater in observance of our debate yesterday.
Nice. Love it.
So, what's that?
I love it.
Oh, cool. So the obvious first advantage of dehydrated food is it's so lightweight and easy to transport. You don't have to worry about it freezing or anything, So easy to transport, so light to carry, and then also really easy to make too. For the most part, you're just boiling water. And as soon as that water hits a boil, which is especially nice in the tent, is as soon as your water hits a boil, you take it right off the stove. You start it rehydrating your food. You're not boiling water for 5 to 8 minutes to make pasta or anything, turning your tent into a rainforest. Ease of operation. And, a lot of people will say that it doesn't taste very good, but a lot of those people haven't had dehydrated food that's been made in the last, 3-4 years. It's a lot better than it used to be, which is a ringing endorsement. So, I wonder what Annie has to say to that.
Well,
I disagree with the argument that it tastes bad. I personally love dehydrated meals, especially the Mountain House sweet and sour pork.
Yeah,
that is a favorite of mine as well, Eric. But here, I'm going to borrow your comment that you made on episode 1, where we were talking about pooping and toilet paper versus the snowball.
Pooping,
and
right?
I commented how uncomfortable the snowball is. And you said, well, we're out winter camping, right? We're going somewhere. I go to a movie theater I go see a horror movie to be scared. I'm just going to take this back. We're camping. We're out, we're surrounding ourselves by nature. We are being mindful of our travel. And so I feel like, yes, it's more convenient. Yes, it's easier. You can make it really fast, but it's also sort of like the junk food, the fast food of the wilderness. And it's really mindless. And why we're out there to just sort of work hard and create our own environment. And so I feel like that, yes, you're right. Those two things are true. However, that's not why we're out in the wilderness, to enjoy fast food. Now, having a few packets of it for an emergency situation, if it's late at night, you've got two kids who are hypoglycemic and driving you nuts, then yes, having a quick solution, or if somebody gets injured, those things. But in general, do you really want fast food when you're out on a wilderness trip?
Well, not all the time. No, you're absolutely right there. But, fast food, yes, that's the bare minimum of preparing dehydrated food, putting the water in. But as I think we all do, we get a little creative with our dehydrated meals, whether it's rehydrating them, throwing them in the pan with some extra ingredients, spicing them up a little bit, bringing tortillas along. So the preparation of the food itself is very simple, but you can get creative and make it fun in other ways and get the whole group involved. It doesn't just have to be one person doing the meal, handing out, pouches to everyone. You can make it special. It just takes some time.
Which you'll have a lot of time because you just had to dump some water into the pouch and then go sit there and mind your fishing line again.
Absolutely. And as long as we're referring to episode 1, one of your arguments for the canoe was that you can stay out so long with the canoe with the paddling or with the carrying capacity. So I would say that dehydrated food lets you stay out longer because it tends to be less bulky to carry. It can fit in more spaces. Don't need to keep it warm, all that.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'll give you that. And furthermore, with that, you could also argue that with the dehy, you really only need a kettle or something to boil water in. Whereas, when I go out camping and I'm not eating dehydrated food, which is most of the time, then I'm bringing things like a Dutch oven because I'm in a canoe. Maybe a really nice fry pan, a cast iron fry pan. I'm doing a lot of baking. And these are things that, of course, you can't do when you're relying on dehy food. But you're right. It is less kit. It is less weight. So you can pack more of it and you can go for a longer amount of time. But here's the thing about dehydrated food also. You have to have a lot of money because it's really expensive.
You're absolutely right. And you're also right about having the canoe and being able to carry a lot of stuff and the carrying capacity for your kids and everything. I mean, that sounds like an awesome minivan.
It is an awesome minivan. Water minivan. And also, the one thing that I also don't like about dehydrated food, which I do like actually, but the other thing is that it's very high in sodium. And so if I'm on an expedition or a long camping trip, I'm eating a lot of sodium by nature anyways. And so having my nightly or my morning meal also be a meal that's high in sodium is just something that a lot of times I'm trying to avoid. What do you say about that, CP?
I think that it is high in sodium, but especially if you're in a place like the sea ice or snow where you're getting your water from melting snow, there's not a lot of mineral content in that. So you're actually flushing a lot of minerals, sodium included, out of your system. So you're right. It is salty and everything, but I think it balances out with exertion. But I think we could probably agree that a good balance to strike would be a mix of the two, because they are kind of like the canoe and kayak in that they perform different functions. You're eating both of them, but their strong points don't really match up. And it is really special to get some home cooked meal or a special dessert that you brought along on trail.
That's true. Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I'd say that that's pretty good. I just wanted to, one of my favorite poets is Robert Service. And my favorite poem is a poem called While the Bannock Bakes. And of course, he's not using dehy. He's baking bannock, the good old fashioned food, right? But he has a verse that goes, it's talking about like, why is wilderness so awesome? And he says, it's the tracking and the packing and the pulling in the sun. It's the sleeping in the open. It's the rugged, unfaked food. It's the campfire and the paddle and the snowshoe and the gun. And when I think of what I was, I know that it is good. And that sort of sums up my theory on this. It comes back to like, my mom used to call junk food porn food. And because it was kind of just fake and unhealthy. And I sort of feel like dehydrated food serves its purpose, but it's also a little bit the junk food of the wilderness. And so I'm going to stick with Robert Service on this one. And I'm going to go with real food, except when it's called for specifically to have super lightweight, super fast, and super good food.
There we go. I like how you finished, because I was going to ask how much you like real food when you're sick of carrying it all day and would rather not eat than carry it.
And I'm not really good at making like sweet and sour pork one night and then beef stroganoff the next. And then
that is true. That is true.
Chicken breasts with mashed potatoes. Okay, onwards from this one. I call it
all right. Well, it's obvious that both of you like your dehydrated food, but like your fresh food on top of it whenever possible. So, well, we'll call that a draw. How about that?
All right. Okay.
So moving on to the main event, the main topic of the day is the pros and cons of glacier or land ice travel versus sea ice travel. And so we're gonna, CP started off last round, so we're gonna pass it back to Annie for the start of this round. And Annie, let's see what the water bottle koozie of fate will give you today.
Ooh, this is gonna be a tough one. I like this one already.
Annie, so we'd like to hear from you about glacier travel.
Okay, well, good. I love glacier travel. Glaciers are amazing, amazing places. And, you know, they're so similar. They're very similar in a lot of ways. But one thing that I really like about glacier travel, and I think I'm going to hear this argument again from CP, is that it requires you to think. It's not mindless travel. Your mind is actively engaged. You know, you're constantly looking for signs of crevasses. You have to be prepared for them. You have to be thinking, what would I do? You're playing the what if game a lot. You know, what would happen if so-and-so on my team fell into a crevasse here? How would I handle that? So my mind, I'll speak for myself. My mind's always moving and thinking and plotting courses and doing things like that on the glacier. But one of the things I like most about glacier travel, and perhaps the most obvious for people, is that you're usually in an alpine environment. Not always the case. You can be in the middle of Antarctica, and be on a glacier and not be in an alpine environment. But same thing with portions of Greenland. But for the most part, you're in an alpine environment, which means that you've got amazing views and you have some really fun topography for route finding and for map reading and just for stopping and having a snack and just looking out over really great terrain. So the two things that I'm just going to start off with for CP, that it engages you. You have to be smart, and it's just downright beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't argue with any of those for glacier travel, and I don't think you could argue with any of those for traveling on the sea ice either.
Oh, I know this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The difference for sure is that if you are in an alpine environment, you don't get that elevation when you're traveling on the sea ice, which is not to say that the sea ice is not as beautiful. I think a lot of people have this preconceived notion that the ice cap is not very interesting to look at, that it might be totally flat or just not have all that much variation in color or anything, which is anything but the truth. It's awe-inspiring, and anyone who gets a chance to see it or spend any time on there is insanely lucky.
True.
And like glacier travel, your mind's always engaged when you're traveling across the pack ice. You're looking, what I'm looking for anyways, is I'm almost trying to read a different language of this ice over here. This looks a little rubbly. Is this just a random zone, or does that mean we're about to hit a lead? Which way should we go from here? We don't know, because it's changing all the time. For my money, that's one of the coolest things about the sea ice, is that every trip is unique, because no path that you take will ever be the same. It's drifting, the ice is grinding together. Even if you go 1 week after another group, your trail is going to be so different if you start from the exact same spot. All
right.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, okay. So
I can see the look on Annie's face. She's like, I love the sea ice so much. Why am I having to argue for glaciers right now?
That's true. But I do have some things where I think the glaciers win out. And I would say that, first of all, no drift. All right. Every step you put towards your destination is a step that you get to keep. You're not going to wake up 5 miles back from where you started. You're not going to wake up over to the east or the west. You pretty much know where you are. I guess it's possible you could be on a super quickly advancing glacier, but no, we just won't go there. That's more sci-fi.
If you're moving measurably forward on a glacier, you probably shouldn't be on that glacier.
That's right. Another thing,
be for long.
That one's going to be almost, you can't argue with that one. I'm just telling you, CP, just save your breath on that one. And then another one is accessibility. Like, you know, you guys live in near alpine terrain, and you guys could probably go out within a few hours and get on a glacier. But the pack ice, you not only have to be up in the Arctic or down in the Antarctic, but you have to really have quite a bit of money to get there. And the logistics and the logistical support and the know-how to be able to do it. Now, granted, on a glacier, you need know-how too, but it's just a lot more accessible. So just two more quick things. I've got a couple more spare ones I'm just thinking as I'm talking, but accessibility and no drift. CP, can you argue with either of those?
I can't argue with you on accessibility. That's not going to change. The pack ice is one of the beautiful things in the world, and you got to work for it to get there. But drift, no, I'm not with you at all on drift. Drift is awesome. Drift is part of the experience. If it's working in your favor, it's a helping hand. If it's not, it's another challenge that you have to overcome, which is part of the allure of traveling in these crazy places. Is maybe it's drifting south, or maybe you're watching it on your GPS and see that in 8 hours it's going to be working against you, and then you have to make a new strategy. It's part of that playing the environment you're on, going around the crevasses, trying to figure out your best route. You've also got the drift to contend with. So I like it, even if it's not working in your favor. Every angel needs a demon to work against, or vice versa.
Okay.
However you're feeling that particular day.
Good point.
And I'll just leave you with this. Sea ice is at sea level, so you don't need to worry about any altitude sickness or slides or rock fall coming down on you. There are different dangers on the sea ice, of course, but you know, your lungs are working at full capacity, and you're not going to have a headache or have any appetite issues or anything. Being at sea level is nice.
Okay, you're right. You're right about that. And I was thinking, you know, like, well, on many glaciers, you don't have to worry about bears like you do on the sea ice. So that's an advantage. You know, on glaciers, we're usually traveling in rope teams. So we are lucky enough to be carrying that extra kit and be tied to each other, which is always fun, because it's always fun to figure out each other's paces on the go. It's actually getting a little bit hard for me. Let me see how to spin that in a positive way. We get to be tied to each other in a glacier. You know, come on, you don't get to do that.
It's always nice to just feel that sudden yank on your harness.
Yes, we can't lose one another. Not that we would lose anybody on the pack ice, but okay. So we get to play with more beaners. Aha, I got it. We get to put more stuff. We get to wear a harness. We get to put stuff on it that clanks when we walk, and we get to look really cool by wearing ropes slung across our chest and clanking beaners and things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
the classic mountaineer.
That's important to a lot of people, I know. If that's really important. Oh, yeah.
I have a good one. I do believe this. I feel like there's more predictable weather on sea ice. And part of that is that I feel like on glaciers in general, you have worse storms. And part of that is because you're in an alpine terrain that you're getting oftentimes more katabatic winds. So when you do have storms, they tend to be more intense. And so, yeah, I feel like glacier travel in general. Oh, wait, that's again arguing for.
It's more extreme adventure.
Okay, so I guess I love glacial travel, but yeah, sea ice is looking pretty good.
Yeah, and I just want to close with a couple things that I personally love about sea ice. Is it's such a mind warp to think that you are standing on a surface and have been for however long, a week, 2 weeks, a month. You haven't been on a boat or a plane for that whole time, and you are so far away from the land. You are like 500 miles away from the nearest landmass, and you're just hanging out, walking around. It's something that I never get tired of. And then just part of that, the drift and the changing dynamic environment. I always think about watching leads open up or pressure ridges being built as seeing geologic time fast forwarded like to whatever nth degree. It's like watching the earth change, but you're just watching ice. It's something that's so cool.
Oh, that's an awesome way to describe the pack ice. I love that. And I'm going to take that and finish up my portion of defending glacial travel by saying, one thing that you can't do on the sea ice is you can't really get in and crawl into a lead and go down into it and see what the pack ice looks like from underneath underneath. But you can crawl into a crevasse. You can set up a system and lower yourself into a crevasse and get a whole different perspective on that glacier. And doing that is a really fun way to just kind of have a different take on it. It's also a great way to learn your crevasse rescue skills, but it's a lot of fun. So that's how I'll wrap up my debate too. Eric, who won this one? That's tough.
Oh, well, I was surprised that it took this long for crevasses to come out. Like, if you're on a glacier, you could, if you fall through, you might be going a long ways down, where if you fall through the sea ice, you're only going to go a couple feet max.
That's
saying
true.
that falling into the Arctic Ocean would be enjoyable, but definitely.
Well, but depending where you are on the sea ice, I mean, if you're in the coastal regions, you could have some currents that could sweep you away. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, the injury of one versus the injury of another. I suppose so. But also, if you're on a rope team and if you're practiced with that, hopefully nobody's going anywhere. And certainly, hopefully not everybody's going somewhere.
Well, I think that this is a pretty clear win for sea ice travel. I'm just going to call it.
Let us know what you think in the comments too.
Maybe it's the topic to bring back. We can bring back one of our pro mountaineer friends and maybe revisit this at another date. But
maybe
for right now, we're going to call it sea ice for the win.
I guess that's your PolarExplorers guides there, pulling out the sea ice win. We should allow somebody whose profession it is to guide mountain expeditions rather than polar expeditions come on and do a better defense than I did.
Well, I'm really excited for this last question for you guys, because this one you have not heard the topic yet, and so you are totally flying off the cuff. And we're going to hit it back over to CP for the start. But the topic today is, if you had to cross the United States from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, would you do it by bike or by horse?
By horse.
Yeah.
No, by bike.
And so I'm going to assign you one.
Oh, okay.
Either bike or horse, and you have to argue for it.
Huh.
So CP, you will be crossing the country by horse.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Am I doing it solo?
Yes.
Okay. Well, who doesn't need a little animal companionship for that long journey? No, horse, you don't need, you can get off the beaten path with a bike for sure. You don't need to be on a major highway. You can be on a mountain bike and ride trails and stuff. But horses, you can go totally cross country and leave the carrying stuff to the large pack animal.
That's a good one, CP. I'm watching you. I can see your mind ticking in the back.
What's your level of experience with horses from 1 to 10, just for reference?
I've seen a lot of them on TV before. No, I've taken some trail rides, but not in maybe one in the last 10 years or so. But it was fun. I have gone backpacking with a donkey before, like a donkey carrying some stuff. Mostly from water.
That's your aspirational expedition for
right. Yeah.
We're going to give you a second to mull it over a little more, and we'll see what Annie's initial thoughts are on
right. I'm all over
the
this
country by bike.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm all over this because when I go on a canoe trip and bring my dog, I got to bring food for him, and I can let him browse and graze in the grassy areas of the forest where there's not a lot of grass, but he doesn't eat that kind of stuff. And I just think having a horse with you would just be kind of it would be fun when it's fun, but you got to feed them, which means you've got to find some yards and, or some pastures. And so much land in the United States is private that, if I put my horse on somebody's land, they might come after me with a shotgun. I don't know. And, but I know that I can always, I don't have to feed my bike, and it can graze in the concrete jungle. And but I don't get that companionship. So yeah, ooh gosh, that's a tough one. I think that I don't have the veterinary bills. I'm going with the bike.
So I've got a couple more, not much, but
If you fall off your horse, which you're likely to do because you have little experience, that horse has a mind of its own, and it could leave you. It can abandon you.
it knows who's giving it water every night. No, the horse would be a cool way to experience the country. It'd be like going back in time and really taking it slow and making a connection with people who've crossed the country generations ago. And then also just thinking about potential for creating more trips, or if you're into generating a following online, what's a better hook for follow my journey across the country? I'm doing it on a bike, or I'm doing it on a GD horse. Come on, who wants to follow the bike guy? Follow the horse guy.
No, we don't want to follow. We want to follow CP on a horse, not just, we don't want to follow Eric on a horse. Eric's got horseback riding. I want to follow CP on a horse.
Yeah, there we go. Watch me fall off the horse every day.
Maybe this is your next big expedition, CP.
I think it
Cross
should be.
country on a donkey.
I
would go donkey. For sure, donkey.
Isn't that a big sport, walking with your donkey and doing like 100-mile races, and you just have to push?
I think ultra running with a donkey is a thing. I've
never
done it before.
Right.
It hasn't quite made its way out to the Midwest yet, but CP, you could bring that to us.
I might just be the person to do it.
Are you the ass, or are you the? No, just kidding.
Well, one of us is an ass, but we're both jackasses.
Oh, okay. All righty. Okay. Well, that was a fun one, Eric.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just for my own knowledge, which one would you choose? If you actually had the opportunity.
I would of course choose the horse, because that would be a crazy fun adventure. I know what it's like to ride my bike, and I love it. But I don't know what it's like to take a horse across the country, and I would do it. I would do it with CP.
Right on. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, yeah, definitely horse, 100%.
Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I would do it by horse too. I mean, I just think it would be so much more of an adventure. You could get off road a lot easier. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a lot more of a romantic expedition doing it with a horse than by bike.
We can tie this, of course, back into polar exploration, because people nowadays are riding their bikes to the South Pole, and back in the early 1900s, they were using ponies. And so we find ourselves, as CP said, we can relive the old days, or we could go with more modern stuff. And we're seeing that happening in Antarctica. And I think that it's, there have been a few bike expeditions. Not all of them have been successful. I don't know. I don't think that any of the pony expeditions were successful, at least not all the way to the pole, but certainly within shorter regions, yes. But interesting that it all comes back to the poles.
And speaking of early expeditions, I believe that you're going to be doing a presentation next week about the the Imperial Transantarctic Expedition, which
That's
people
right.
may know by a different name.
Yeah, the Endurance Expedition. And if you have not, if you're only slightly familiar with this story, or if you don't know anything about this story, then you need to tune in. We're gonna have two presentations, one on Tuesday at 2:00 Chicago time, and one on Thursday at 6:00 Chicago time. Am I right, Eric? This is one of the most phenomenal stories and most phenomenal expeditions in history. And that's not even a stretch that's not even a stretch. It's phenomenal. It's uplifting. It's exciting, inspiring, and just downright incredible. And so I've got some great pictures to share with everybody, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then I'm also going to share a little bit about how we walked in a portion of Shackleton's footsteps, crossing South Georgia Island in 2012 and 2015. But the presentation's mostly about Shackleton and the Endurance Expedition, which is just it's out of this world.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that. And it's always fun having you guys on. Thank you again for taking the time.
Hey, wait, that's on Zoom. So you got to go to our website, PolarExplorers.com, and then find the virtual events, which there's a link to it on our homepage. It's not on Facebook Live. It's on Zoom, just so you know.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, that wraps up Polar Opposites for today. We'll tune in next week on Friday with some new topics and some new spirited discussion, either with Annie and CP or with a mystery guest. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much, Eric. This was a fun one.
Yeah, right on, Eric. Give me some horseback riding lessons.
All righty. See you guys later.